spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
What business brought you here?
Your welfare.
I am much obliged to you, though a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end.
Your reclamation, then. Take heed. Rise and walk with me. Come with me towards this window.
I am a mortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand upon your heart, and you shall be upheld in more than this.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road, with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day, with snow upon the ground.
Good heaven! I was bred in this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling. What is that upon your cheek?
A pimple. I beg of you, lead me where you will.
You recollect the way?
Remember it. I could walk it blindfold.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years. Let us go on.
They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and winding river. They came upon some boys in great spirits, who shouted to each other until the broad fields were so full of merry music that the crisp air laughed to hear it.
These are but shadows of the things that have been. They have no consciousness of us.
I know them all and can name every one. And my heart leaps as they give each other Merry Christmas. But what is Merry Christmas to me? What good has it ever done me?
The school is not quite deserted. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still.
I know it.
They left the high road by a well-remembered lane, and soon approached a mansion of dull red brick, with a little weathercock surmounting cupola on the roof and a bell hanging in it. It was a large house, but one of broken fortunes, for the spacious offices were little used, their walls were damp and mossy, their windows broken, and their gates decayed. They went, the ghost and Scrooge, to a door at the back of the house. It opened before them and disclosed a long, bare, melancholy room. At a table, a lonely boy was reading near a feeble fire, and Scrooge sat down and wept to see his poor, forgotten self as he used to be. The spirit touched him on the arm and pointed to his younger self, intent upon his reading. Suddenly, a man in foreign garments, wonderfully real and distinct to look at, stood outside the window with an axe struck in his belt and leading by the bridle an ass laden with wood.
Why, it's Ali Baba. It's dear old honest Ali Baba. Yes, I know. One Christmas time when yonder solitary child was left here all alone, he did come for the first time, just like that. Poor boy. And there's the parrot, green body and yellow tail, with a thing like a lettuce growing out of the top of his head. And there he is. Poor Robin Crusoe, he called him when he came home again after sailing around the island. Poor Robin Crusoe, where have you been, Robin Crusoe? The man thought he was dreaming, but he wasn't. It was the parrot, you know. Poor boy. I wish... But it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should like to have given him something, that's all.
Let us see another Christmas.
Scrooge's former self grew larger at the words, and the room became a little darker and more dirty. The panels shrunk, the windows cracked, fragments of plaster fell out of the ceiling, and the naked lamps were shown instead. And there he was, alone again, when all the other boys had gone home for the jolly holidays. He was not reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. Scrooge looked at the ghost, glancing anxiously towards the door. A little girl, much younger than the boy, came darting in.
Dear brother, I have come to bring you home, dear brother, to bring you home.
Home, little man?
Yes, home, for good and all, home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be. That home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him once more if he might come home, and he said yes, you should. He set me in a coat to bring me, and are never to come back here. But first, we are to be together all Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world.
whom a breath might have withered, but she had a large heart.
So she had. You're right. I will not gainsay it, Spirit. God forbid.
She died a woman and had, as I think, children.
One child.
True, your nephew.
Yes.
Although they had been but that moment left the school behind them, they were now in the busy thoroughfare of a city, where shadowy passengers passed and repassed, where shadowy carts and coaches battled for the way, and all the strife and tumult of a real city were. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here too it was Christmas time again, but it was evening, and the streets were lighted up.
Do you know this warehouse?
Know it? Was I apprenticed here?
They went in. An old gentleman in a Welsh wig sat behind such a high desk that if he had been 2 inches taller, he might have knocked his head against the ceiling.
Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again.
Ha ha! Oh, there, Lisa. Dick?
Dick Wilkins, to be sure. Bless me, yes, there he is. Oh, he was very much attached to me, was Dick. Oh, Dick, dear, dear.
Go home, my boys. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up before man can say, Jack Robinson, hilly-ho, clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room. Hilly-ho, Dick, tune up, Ebenezer.
It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off as if it was dismissed from public life forevermore. The floor was swept and watered, the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book, went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it, and tuned like 50 stomachaches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one fat, vast, substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. There were dances, there were forfeits, more dances, there was cake, there was a great piece of cold roast, there was a great piece of cold boiled, there were mince pies, plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening came after the roast and boiled, when the fiddler struck up Sir Roger de Coverley. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took to their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas. During the whole of this time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in that scene, and with his former self. He corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation.
A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
Small?
Is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that. It isn't that, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it had cost a fortune.
What is the matter?
Nothing particular.
Something, I think.
No, I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now. That's all.
My time grows short. Quick.
Again Scrooge saw himself. He was older now, a man in the prime of life. His face had not the harsh and rigid lines of later years, but it had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. There was an eager, greedy, restless motion in the eye, which showed the passion that had taken root, and where the shadow of the growing tree would fall. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl in a morning dress, in whose eyes there were tears.
It matters little. To you, very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one.
matter passion, master passion, gain engrosses you.
What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I'm not changed towards you, am I?
Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until, in good season, we could improve our worldly fortune by our patient industry. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man.
I was a boy.
Your own feeling tells you that you were not what you are. I am. That which promised happiness when we were one in heart is fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this, I will not say. It is enough that I have thought of it and can release you.
Have I ever sought release?
In words, no, never.
In what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, another hope as its great end, in everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If this had never been between us, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now?
You think not.
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? Do I not know that repentance and regret would surely follow? I do. And I release you with a full heart for the love of him you once were. You may, the memory of what is past half makes me hope you will, have pain in this, a very, very brief time, and you will dismiss the recollection of it gladly as an unprofitable dream from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Spirit, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
One shadow more.
No more, no more. I don't wish to see it. Show me no more.
They were in another scene and place, a room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. Near to the window